Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Edie Summers, and my very special guest today is Rasha Dahrouj. Am I saying your name correctly, Rasha?
That's
Okay.
correct.
And thank you so much for being here. And we're going to be having a really great conversation today about developing your self-awareness and also maybe improving kind of your holistic well-being, mindfulness, and we might be talking about kind of I know that you do theta healing, Rasha, so I'd love to learn more about that. So, Rasha, do you want to give us a little bit of a background first on how you got into holistic well-being for our listeners today?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Edie, so much for this beautiful chat with you. It's always a pleasure having these conversations with you.
Likewise.
Um, I think just like most people, it all started when something happens to you. Either you hit rock bottom, or you have a health condition. So for me, it was a long time ago. I was still like in my early 20s, and I would get all sorts of different chronic conditions that I would go to doctors, and then I wouldn't be able to heal them. And then every time I went to an alternative therapy or a holistic therapy, then immediately the change, I could see the change, I could see the healing happen. And I never really thought about that at the time. But then fast forward, and then life happened, and then a few years back, I think it was around 5 years ago, I was mentally and emotionally, I think that was like really so far my like the lowest rock bottom that I have ever hit in my emotional and mental, state. And hopefully I'd never have to go back there again. But at that time, I realized that I really couldn't do everything on my own. I really needed support. I needed help. So I started looking out for or researching and asking my friends around about different alternative treatments and therapies, and that's how I came to know about theta healing. And I loved it so much because it helps me a lot. It's a very gentle talk therapy. It's an alternative modality to the traditional psychotherapy, where by being in a meditative state, the practitioner guides the client to going within and understanding what is it that's creating these patterns or these limiting beliefs, or what is it that's manifesting outwardly as this stressful condition or these situations that are causing anxiety. And so by identifying these things within, the client is able to overcome them, and then slowly things start to shift in their lives. And so that's why I chose the topic of self-awareness, because I think all my life I've always had this internal awareness of myself, of how I act, how I think. And I think at that point it became really obvious, and then really, like, to me at least, that this was very important for me. In order for me to understand what was going on in my life, I had to go within and understand myself. And there's this thing that I say, in restaurants, they tell you that the most important thing is location, location, location. And I believe that in life, the most important thing is awareness, 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 and more so self-awareness.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And then over the past few years, 5, 6 years, I've been practicing theta healing. I also got into life coaching. That's how you and I met,
Yeah.
through Mind Valley Life Coaching. And now I combine life coaching and theta healing, and I offer one-on-one sessions, and I offer workshops for in group settings. And for me personally, it's been life changing, and I think that everybody, in whatever small format, if everyone can like use the tools that are available out there, and if they do a little bit of research, and if they listen to other people's stories, and then they learn from them, I think they can, these, even the smallest tools and the smallest changes can make really big changes in their life.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And everything you said was so meaningful and beautiful. And there's so much to unpack there. I really agree. Everyone is on their own healing journey, but we need to help each other. And I do think people are looking for the pieces that they can piece together that are going to work for them. And so much of it is about developing that self-awareness and finding and going within. And there's the healing journey is going to be a little different for everyone, but there's so much that's in our control, so much more than I think people realize. So let's dive a little bit deeper into self-awareness, and then we can circle back to theta healing. A really quick question about theta healing, because I remember this when you first mentioned it. Is it also about being in a different state, like the theta state? Is that is that like a different like brainwave state, or I'd be curious about that, and then we could circle back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like you mentioned, our brain communicates, like our neurons communicate with each other, and they create these wave patterns. And
Mhm.
so depending on how fast this communication happens, it's measured through frequency, how fast these, like our brain neurons talk to each other. So when we're in our normal day-to-day activity, our brain wave frequency is in beta. So it means that we are in high alert, we are in problem solving mode, and it's not a time to create or go into that creative state, right? Into that relaxed state, because we're very alert, we're very aware. And obviously, there is a range when it comes to the beta brain state, which is if it's in the high state, it means that we're going through something stressful, we're in anxiety. And then when you start going down the spectrum from beta, we go to alpha, which is the state we're in when we're in nature, when we're playing with kids or with pets. So you notice that people can notice that they're a little bit more relaxed, even when they're getting a massage. They're in a state where they're a little bit more relaxed. They're not using their analytical mind as much. So they start lowering their brain waves. The communication starts to slow down a little bit. There's not as much chatter anymore. You're not using your analytical mind to solve problems or figure out things. You're not as like focused on specific things, but then you open kind of your awareness into just a more relaxed state. So you start going into the alpha state. And then the more comfortable you get and the more relaxed you get, then you start going into theta. So people who meditate, they can be between alpha and theta brain state. Theta is a very relaxed state. It's usually, we know it, we're familiar with it because it's the moment right before falling asleep. We're still conscious, but we're
Okay.
completely relaxed. So our body is totally relaxed, but our conscious mind is still, there is kind of somehow an awareness. We're not like unconscious like when we're fully asleep. So the moment we're going to sleep or we just wake up, that's like the theta brain state. And then obviously you can go deeper when you're in delta, when you're fully asleep. So that beautiful spot in the theta state, when you meditate, when you do meditations, apart from obviously when you go to bed and when you wake up in the morning, when you do meditation and you get used to meditating, then you can reach the theta state much easier. Every time, the better you get at meditating, just sitting with yourself, maybe closing your eyes or not, becoming mindful, becoming more grounded, more present, and then, relaxing the body, you can get to that state easier. So then with theta healing,
Wonderful. That
yeah, so
that
with
was
theta
beautifully
healing, we
said,
do,
Rasha. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So with theta healing, we do start with a meditation so that the client can relax. Both the practitioner and the client will be in the theta state in order to conduct the session, because we kind of connect through both of our energies as well. And yeah, and that helps us to access the subconscious mind much easier. It's quite gentle, so there is no like abrupt change. You don't feel like you're going from a state to another. It's quite gentle.
That sounds amazing and super, super healing. And And so now let's talk about self-awareness. And I'm curious about, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are, the connection between developing self-awareness and the kind of that subconscious state. How important is that for both to develop self-awareness and also access the subconscious state so that you can kind of change your patterns of thought, or if you could explain more about maybe how they're connected, and then also just self-awareness in general, like anything that you would like to talk about that's related to that, I think would be really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So from my own understanding and the way that I see life and the way that I see, how humans interact with themselves and their environment around them, I believe that when we're really young as children, our inner world is very real. That's why playtime is very important for us as children. That's why we can fantasize and have very wild imaginations. We can have all these imaginary friends. So our
Hmm.
inner world is more real than our outer world, and our outer world is just a reflection of something or just things that are happening. But our inner world is very important to us at that stage. And then it's been proven scientifically that kids, I think until the age of 7 or 8, they're in their theta brain state constantly because their subconscious mind is still developing, and their analytical mind is not yet fully developed. So they're easily susceptible. That's why, as parents, we have a big responsibility. What are the things that we teach our children? And that's why they say they're like sponges. So they really can absorb a lot at that age. After the analytical mind has been developed uh, and the subconscious mind is better developed, then they start changing, and then their brain waves go from theta to alpha and to beta the older they get. And so, going back to the topic of self awareness, then I believe that the older we get from childhood, we become teenagers, and then we become adults, we give more importance to our environment. So the people around us, the way that we interact with everybody around us, what's going on in our outer environment. We start waiting for things outside of us to happen for us to feel a certain way. So if something works out outside of us, then we feel happy. If something doesn't work out, then we feel angry or we feel sad. And so I think at some point we've been giving a lot of awareness or a lot of attention to our outer world, that our inner world, all of the things that we developed as kids or growing up, all these beliefs, things that become our limiting beliefs, our limiting programs, they start to knock on the door and say, "Hey, I need you to pay attention." So all these suppressed emotions from traumas or from events in our life that didn't go the way that we wanted, whether they're small or big, and we tend to suppress a lot of it. We tend to not deal with it in the proper way or in the best way growing up. So we tend to suppress a lot of these emotions, but for one reason or another, these emotions are energy in motion. So these emotions, they need to move. These things need to be dealt with. So they start knocking on the door, and that voice starts getting louder. And so we start seeing those things coming up as, either the way that we react to things in life, they trigger us. We hear this word a lot. So things in our environment start to trigger us. And if we don't pay attention to why these things are triggering us, then they're going to keep on coming, and they might keep on coming even in stronger and more deep and more like things that have a bad effect on us. So the moment we start paying attention to what is it that's causing us to react a certain way, and why things in our environment are making us triggering us or making us react a certain way, the moment we start making our inner world again more real than our outer world, that's how we start understanding. So when we understand ourselves, and then we start dealing with these things that we have suppressed, and then dealing with these things that we haven't really paid attention to, then things start to slowly shift. And of course, it's going to take time. So whether it's through healing, getting support from therapists or healers or doctors or professionals, or whether it's if it's something that a person trusts themselves enough to do it on their own by practicing mindfulness, maybe sitting on their own for a certain time, maybe practicing meditation. So it could be done in a number of ways. There's so many tools out there. But yeah, it's the person's responsibility to make that decision themselves, right? To realize, you know what, I want to start taking care of this, and then nobody's responsible except for me for this. So I think that's the moment when we start to change and to
Mhm.
heal.
I love that kind of finding that agency and confidence and belief in yourself and also allowing yourself to turn back within again and kind of find that rich world of imagination, but also empowerment. And I really love that you did mention limiting beliefs because I think that it's true for all of us that we can get stuck in what we think maybe something used to protect us, a way of thinking or believing or behaving used to protect us. But then, as adults, that same belief system is actually getting in the way. And so I love how it's it's such a great reminder to keep developing your awareness and checking within and kind of taking inventory. And I love also how you remind us that there are so many different paths. Um, you know, for all the people that are, looking to heal, I mean, we do have counselors, but we don't have enough counselors. So I believe that a lot of coaches are going to fill in that role of be holding that space, that positive space for people to help them do that navigation and kind of developing awareness. And I love how you say that you could also do it maybe through mindfulness. Um, is there anything that you want to explore deeper? I know that you said you love mindfulness, Rasha. Is that if someone, let's take it from two angles. If someone were to work with someone, let's say like you, what would it look like for them to develop self-awareness and kind of heal those limiting beliefs? What would that look like? And then what would it look like if they were to do it, let's say on their own by practicing mindfulness, yoga, things like that? Um, I'm sure that people are thinking to themselves, "Oh, I would love to do this. What's the right path for me?" Um, what is that? What do those sound
Yeah,
like to you?
that's a really good question. So what's the right path for me? I think
Yeah.
everybody needs to kind of start exploring. The moment you ask that question, you open the door for exploration, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? Because there is no one right path for everybody. That's why we have all these different practices, all these different modalities, and all these different tools. And then in the coaching world, that's the one that I'm familiar with. There's always new tools, there's always new updates. We have these beautiful communities where as coaches, we're always supporting each other, we're learning from each other. So there's always a lot for us to learn and explore. So everybody has, maybe also going back to that, self-responsibility and accountability, that, the moment you ask yourself that question, start to ask people around you, look online, and there's so many resources out there now that, information is so available that ignorance is a choice now. It's no longer an option. Um, so when it comes to myself, to my sessions with my clients, so now the best way that I like to approach it is I combine all these different modalities that I've practiced and learned over the years. So I combine theta healing with coaching and meditation. So in my programs with my clients, is we alternate. So we
Mm.
work, we do, depending on the client and the case, every case is different or every situation is different, but we alternate. We do, most of the time I do one coaching, and then the next week we do theta healing, and then the week after we do coaching, and then we end the month with a meditation session. So I work with them on a weekly basis, and then we alternate between the different modalities. But obviously it's flexible because it depends on what the person needs. And to me, I like it. To me, because like I said, it's something that's what I learned. That brings out the essence of what I've the skills that I've developed in that way. And this is the best I can serve the person that I'm working with. But then obviously, like we said, there's so many tools out there, and it can start with something as simple as practicing mindfulness exercises that are so simple that, just sitting and just paying attention to the senses and then becoming more present. Those are enough for the moment to just kind of bring all your energy back into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just sit down, if you can guide a person, or there's also like resources on YouTube. If the person just sits down and just focuses on their sense of smell, like what am I smelling? And just even if their mind drifts and they start getting these thoughts, it's okay because this is normal. But then just bring that awareness back into the sense of smell. It could be the sense of touch, and maybe just like putting your palms together and just like feeling your fingertips against each other, against your palms, and just like literally, how does that feel? What's the temperature? Just bringing your awareness there. And we all can do this. So right now, me and you, we're paying attention to each other. So it's if we be, this is second nature to us, that we can put our attention to something if we put our mind to it and we decide that we want to put our attention to something. So it's very simple for us to do. Or maybe it could be the colors that you're looking at. So you use your sense of vision, right? So it's like you look at an object and you say, and you start looking at the different shape and the form of that object and the colors. So these are very simple practices that anybody can do. And then obviously they get more advanced. You can do yoga, like you said, specific yoga. I'm not very familiar with it. I've practiced some yoga myself, but there are different types of yoga practices, and a lot of them include mindfulness
Yeah,
element to them.
exactly.
And yeah, so there's so much. That's the beauty of it, is like, there's so much out there.
Absolutely. And I think I really hope that I really feel like people want to heal and they're looking for healing and they're looking for that connection, whether it's with a practitioner or themselves or both. And I really hope that people can hear that there is so much hope for healing, and that there's, like you said, there's so many tools now, and there are so many coaches and practitioners, counselors, people out there that can help too. And there are so many modalities. I think there's so much hope for healing now, and but I really appreciate that you mentioned, kind of like the taking responsibility for your own healing too. And it's is self-awareness, is how is that tied to the kind of taking responsibility part? Because what I've seen, Rasha, in healing is that it's an ongoing thing, right? Like it's not like you do it one time and then, oh, okay, everything is great. Like in my experience, it's something you have to revisit over and over. And I'm wondering, if is self-awareness and self-responsibility, are they tied together? And is there some way to maybe help encourage people have that light bulb moment where they can understand that, oh, this is like a way of being? And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, on all of those topics.
Yeah, I love what you just said. Is that if it's a state of being, it's a lifestyle. It becomes part of who you are. So this
Yeah.
taking responsibility and becoming self-aware are definitely tied up. This is my opinion. I don't think
Yeah.
that anybody is responsible for anybody's well-being 100%, as much as it is the person themselves. So
Mm.
yes, I can go to a doctor, I can go to a practitioner, I can go to a friend for support, but in the end of the day, I'm the one making choices. I'm the one thinking my thoughts. I'm the one feeling my emotions. So if I, no matter how much I try to express these things to somebody else, no one knows better who I am but myself, but me. And so no one understands my inner world better than myself. So they are tied up. The moment that I decide that I am responsible for my own well-being, and then I can get support and help by asking. But in the end of the day, it has to be like, if I go to a doctor and I say, this is hurting, then the doctor won't really understand. They need to ask me all these questions. They want to make sure for the doctor to be able to give you a proper diagnosis, you have to be quite self-aware and say, this happened to me.
Yeah.
I sleep this
Right.
much. This is when I'm feeling the pain. This is what I eat. So it goes back to the same, right? It goes back to like how self-aware you are to give the right information for this specialist, for this professional to be able to help you, right? So this is how the interaction is between the self-awareness and then getting help from outside. And then from within, it's the same. It's like, are we being honest with ourselves? Are we being clear with ourselves? Are we like sitting and having those conversations with ourselves and making our inner world more real than our outer world? And like you said, it's an ongoing process. Because we are such complex beings. We're simple, but we're complex at the same time. And, we can heal certain layers, but then the layers underneath come up to the surface, and then you hear those layers. And then, so yes, it's an ongoing process. And having said that, it doesn't mean that we're going to despair, that, we're never going to be okay. No, because this is the beauty of life, right? I think this is the way that, people evolve. It's all
Yeah.
about evolution in the end of the day. So, you become aware of something, then you work on it, and then you have more capacity to even live life in that bigger capacity, that bigger container. Once
Right.
you're in that bigger container, you have more responsibility. You have to go again within, understand yourself even more, clear those things that are not serving you, understand them on a deeper level, and then you expand your capacity again. You expand that conscious awareness. And it's just that beautiful dance with life, if you want, right? Like, you expand and then you go within, and then you clear and then you expand, and then you get to live life more fully in a more from that more expanded place. And then that's how much. So if you are so much like restricted and constrained by all of these things that are keeping you stuck, then there's only so much of life that you can enjoy and you can live. But then the more that you clear, the more that capacity starts to expand, and then you'll be able to enjoy life more.
Oh, that's so brilliant, Rasha. And I'm just going to reiterate some of the things that you just said, because I feel like this is where your genius is. Like, it's kind of making your inner world more important than your outer world. And then if you want to keep growing, right, and healing, you want to check in, and then you can expand. And so you'll expand your consciousness and self-awareness. And then, as you and I both know, when you start developing more awareness and consciousness, you're going to, find more, you're going to run into challenges, and that is an opportunity to go back in again and recalibrate, and check and see, like, what are maybe some limiting beliefs that I am finding that I didn't even realize I had, and then you can kind of recalibrate and then expand again. I love how you said all of that. It's so, I think, so encouraging, and I feel like we really need to hear this as a reminder, and also as a kind of a blueprint for how to be in this world, really on all levels. um I had a question. I don't know if some people that are listening are thinking this. I'm noticing that all of wisdom is so great, and healing information is wonderful, and I think that sometimes people say to themselves, oh, that sounds so great, but can that be for me? Or my situation's different, this won't apply to me. I'm wondering if you have words of hope or encouragement, or anything that you could say to someone who's listening, who might be experiencing a little bit of doubt and thinking to themselves, oh, I wish that for everyone else, but I don't know if it will work for me. um because I think we all have to face fear on a daily basis, and maybe that is a part of developing that self-awareness and consciousness is knowing that that fear-based mentality is going to be there, and then how do we handle that so that we can continue to grow? Because I really hope for healing for all of us, and I really feel like it's possible. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on, kind of giving encouragement for someone who wants this to be true for them and maybe is wondering if it could be true for them.
That's a really, really good question, Edie. And I think there's a beautiful balance between taking responsibility and then asking for help and support,
Mm-hmm.
because we're at different stages and then we have different capacity or capability at different stages in our life. I think number one, from my personal experience, the most important thing is to understand and believe that we are not alone. Like, yes, you might be scared right now and you might think that this is like the world is closing up on you and then nobody will understand you. You feel like you're never going to get out of this spiral or this darkness, or, this and this really, really bad state, or this lowest rock bottom that you've ever been in. It might feel that way at that moment, and it's rightfully so. Nobody can take that away from anyone if they feel this way. But the only, I think, light at the end of the tunnel at that moment is to really understand that you're not alone and that you're not the only person going through this, and that maybe just listening to other people's stories that have been in your place and then made it out, and then what is it that helped them get out, can give you a little bit of hope. I think that's very important, and literally just understanding, I think, to me, that we're not alone. And then second, when it comes to the part where we take self accountability or self responsibility, is if you can find it in yourself, and I love this word, to anchor into something that gives you faith or hope. So for me, it's faith. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. And that to me has always been my anchor in these moments. So I go back and say, this is happening for a reason. This is not the end of it. I understand and I believe, and I know that I might not be seeing it right now, but I know that I can get out of this. And I've been in different situations before and I overcame them. So I anchor in my faith, and then I also anchor in my support system, my family, my friends who've always been there for me. I've never been alone. I'm very grateful to have these people in my life. And in those moments of despair, even if I feel like all I want to do is sit on my own and not see anybody, because, that's what the self tries to do. It's like, you isolate, you're like, nobody can help me, nobody can understand. But then maybe try to find that anchor and remember that you aren't alone. So there are different ways. It's not the end. It's not the end until it is the end. But then, there's always hope. Yeah.
There's always more, right? Like there's light and dark, and bad times never last. And I love that reminder. What a great metaphor to remind people just to find something to anchor into, that will give you a sense of hope that things can change. And also, I really agree. I also love you saying you're not alone. I do think people that are hesitant to explore healing sometimes feel like they're the only ones who feel this way. And, we have billions and billions of people on this planet, right? And we've had billions of people that have lived before. Someone has the same experience that you do. And if you can find yourself in someone else's story, that can help you know that they made it out, and so can you. And I really appreciate those words of wisdom, Rasha, because I after, as you and I, it sounds like you and I have both been in the holistic wellness space for quite a while, and you and I both know there's so much hope in healing, and that it's an ongoing healing is kind of an ongoing thing, and there's so many tools out there. And then I've also started to notice like that kind of despair that people can feel too, and it's usually from feeling isolated and thinking that that you are the only one in the world who feels this way. And thank you for the reminder that you're not alone. And Rasha, is there anything else that you want to share with us, whether it's about theta healing or self-awareness, or did you want to mention Hilantra? Hilantra, I know, I love how you say that you're the heart of Hilantra. Is there anything else along those lines that you want to share with us?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I started Hilantra a few years back because I really wanted to explore what all this meant for me because I had already studied theta healing. I was practicing it on myself and some other people, but I always felt like this calling that I want to do more with it. I want to do more with this understanding. I want to do more with the experiences that I've been given, that I've been through in my life journey. And so that's when I thought, like, I want to have a base, a platform. I didn't know at the time what it was going to look like or what was the purpose of it, but I knew that the essence of it was going to be, to create more awareness around holistic wellness practices, and that basically back to what you just said, that we're not alone. And so after like thinking too much and being in my mind and my rational brain too much for a long time, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna take a stop, a break, and just like go back to my essence, like to the essence of why I wanted to start it. And then I said, okay, so bringing awareness and education about the topic. And so it started as a podcast, and now it's growing into um, a few different avenues. When one of them is the podcast, and I'm going to very soon launch something where this podcast is going to be more accessible for people who want to bring their voices and who want to share their experiences and who have something that other people can can learn from and can benefit from. And then another avenue is because life coaching is something that I really, really resonated with when I took the course, and I really I've integrated it into my practice. I want to bring, I'm creating a platform. Another avenue from Hilantra is a platform for coaches to help them with their back end and their admin work, so that they can have that base set up, and then they can focus on becoming the best coach or the best version of the coach that they want to be and they can be. And then, yeah, the options are, I'm open for whatever comes along the way, but then, yeah, it's an ongoing project, and then let's see where it goes. But I'm really, really excited. Yeah.
I think that's amazing that you did that. Kudos to you for starting your own business and website, and also to help people. And so for anyone who's listening, it's healantra.com, HEALANTRA.com. Am I saying that right? Healantra.com.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing website. It's beautiful. It has a very holistic feel to it. And yeah, so I highly recommend people to check that out. And Rasha, is there anything that you want to leave people with, like just kind of like a last like quote or reminder, or anything else that you want to say that we haven't covered that's important to you today?
Yeah, absolutely, Edie. I think the last message that I would like to say is that you're never too old, you're never too young, you're never too overweight, underweight, you're never too anything to start. If anything, the moment is now. If you're listening to this, this is the moment to start. Any invitation that you have from the universe, from God, that take this opportunity and do something with it. This is it. This is your moment. So there is, I don't believe in it. It's too late. It's never too late. And then no regrets, because your entire life has led you to this moment right here, right now. And so this is your life purpose. Like, I think if we stop thinking about where I'm supposed to be, and then just understand that this is where I'm supposed to be and this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life, whatever this right now looks like, even
Yeah.
if it looks bad or good or whatever it is, like, I think we've lived our entire life to reach to this point for a reason. And if we can anchor in that, I
Hmm,
think that's the
love
most
that.
beautiful thing. Yeah, I think that would be my last message.
I love that. Kind of just anchor in all of your experience in your own life, and and just start now, start from where you are. And I love that, Rasha. What a beautiful message for people. And I know that this is going to help a lot of people. And thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and for starting a coaching platform and for being a coach and practitioner. And I'm so grateful to know you and to have met you. And thank you, Rasha, and thanks to everyone for listening today.
Thank you so much, Edie. This was a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.